Hello, welcome to the third installment of 3ds Max Texturing and U Extended Edition. This is Alex, care of Mike Lively's instructional design team at Northern Kentucky University. And as you can see in front of us, I'll catch you up a little bit. We have modeled this house for a client. Now, it gave us this original reference image to this really scary, spooky house. And they want us to make a 3D model that we'll eventually put on a website for them to kind of be an attraction or an advertisement for them. All right, so we've modeled it. Everything's done. We got these awesome chimneys. We got this cool window coming up out of the roof. We got a porch, for crying out loud. Now, how do I get a texture onto here that looks realistic, that's going to make it look kind of like this over here? Now, to do that, we're going to have to go into Photoshop, and I've been promising this through tutorials. This is the fun part, but there's a little stuff we need to do before we actually get into Photoshop and start messing with the texture. All right, first things first. Go ahead and press 7 on your keyboard, and we get this new little menu up here. This tells us how many polygons are in our shape. Now, 91 is kind of pushing high, especially for online stuff, but a lot of the online programs actually use the processor a lot better. And actually, in the new Flash, you actually enable certain objects to use the graphics processor to render as opposed to just the actual processor on the computer. So that's an aside. But you want to think about polygon economy whenever you're doing something online, or just in general. Now, how the professionals do it in 3D animation, whether you're at Pixar or if you're making a brand new video game for PlayStation 3 or Xbox or something, or even the computer, they do something where they take a pretty simple polygon like this, and they use bit mapping, which we won't get into because that's kind of a more advanced thing, but I'm just letting you know for your general knowledge. Bit mapping is kind of a way to take a texture that you make and then manipulate the surface of a polygon to make it look like it has more shape to it, or actually a lot more polys. Instead of having 91, it might look like it has 200 or something really detailed. But really, it's all done through the program itself and just through an image. Now, we're not going to do that. We're not going to get into bit mapping, at least in this series of tutorials. But I am going to show you how to put a texture on here. But first, let's then talk about more primitive economy. And we're going to bring it down a little bit. Now, when you start doing stuff inside of a browser or rendering it, how many times you segment a plane can change the way that the texture actually appears inside the browser on the image? We won't get too much into this, but just be aware of that. It's not a bad idea to have a lot of like lines that segment large planes. Like we could actually put another one in here and be totally fine, and maybe even that's preferable. But there's some things you want to make sure you get rid of. Now, on the bottom of this shape, we have a line right here that we don't need. No one's ever going to see this. So to bring down my polygon count, I'm going to go to Edge, our trusted edge tool, go over here, and I'm going to go down to the menu, and I'm actually going to find the remove tool in the edit edges and just remove it. We now have 90 polygons, and we actually have a full shape. If we go to polygon, we select the whole bottom as opposed to just those two separate things. So we brought down one polygon, and we can do a lot more if we so desire. But when you start doing that, a lot of weird things start happening, especially in the texture will export, but we won't get into that because we can also get rid of some of these over here. Like this edge, we can pretty much get rid of. Same way we did the other one. Spin it around, get rid of that other edge. Unneeded, just confusing. Let's see, we can get rid of these edges in here on the roof, chimney. Get rid of that. Move it around and get rid of this one. Now, before you start removing tons of edges, and I should have suggested this immediately, but you probably want to save a different version of your house or whatever you're modeling. Because once you start taking away these edges and polygons, it's going to be a lot harder to edit things. So again, just save a copy of this. I'll go ahead and do it now. File, save copy as. And I have this called Spooky Scary Complete because, again, this is supposedly a haunted house. Well, I'm going to name mine Spooky Scary Complete _ streamlined, just so I know that I've thought about polygon economy. So I've got the chimney pretty much taken care of. What else can I get rid of? Oh, let's go to the porch right here. This right here, unneeded, remove it. This over here, unneeded and removed. Now we can probably get rid of a whole lot more actually on the porch itself, but we're not going to do that because you'll see once you start modeling a lot of this stuff and then texturing it that sometimes you need those lines there and extra polygons, and sometimes you don't. It's really something you'll have to actually mess with and experience by doing it than something I can just show you. But we've gotten something that was 91 polygons down to 82 polygons, which is a pretty awesome feat. Now let's get this thing ready